Welcome to today's episode. Today, we are talking about the art of social media, and in particular, the art of social media for small businesses. And we have a great guest to help us talk through this today, Peg Fitzpatrick. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Why don't we start off by you sharing just a minute or two about who you are and what you do? You have an amazing story.
Thank you. So, I have been around in social media since probably 2010, back in the dark ages of social media. So, I have been doing this for a very long time. I've been working for a company the whole time that I have been doing this. So, I'm in my 14th year working with a mid-sized European company, but I've done a lot of things on the side. That was a part-time job when I started. So, I branched out and I did a whole bunch of things. I have worked behind the scenes with Pinterest and Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn and the teams there. Working with Guy Kawasaki, I have done all kinds of things.
We're ready to be inspired. So, share a story with us about some of the best marketing you've done that you're the most proud of.
Okay. So this is a marketing dream kind of story. It was a really great thing that Guy Kawasaki and I worked on together. When Google owned Motorola, they had the Moto X phone launch. And at the time, Google Plus was really big. I'm not sure. Do you remember Google Plus?
I do.
Okay. Google Plus was huge. I had 1.5 million followers on Google Plus, and Guy had like 8 million followers. So everything that we did, not even counting any of our other social platforms, went out to like 9.5 million people. So it is crazy. So we worked with Motorola on this phone launch, and it was for South America. So the whole continent of South America. So we traveled to Mexico City, Peru, Santiago, Chile, Buenos Aires. Like we went all over the whole continent to these huge activation events that were to share this phone. So it was so fun. Number one, just like taking photos. So I would collect all the media. Guy was doing speeches at all of the different venues, and every venue had like a different theme. Every country's was totally different. So we would roll up in this country, switch our SIM cards out. I got to be a master SIM card switcher during this time. And they treated us like royalty. We stayed at like beautiful places and we just traveled around, went to these events, and then I just created tons of content to share the phones. We used the Moto X phones for all of our stuff. Oh, I should have pulled my phone out. I still have my original one. It was so great. Are you Android or iOS?
iOS, yeah.
I am now iOS. I was Android through this period, and the phones were amazing. They had this, like, little dimple thing on the back, so when you held it, it was a really, really great user experience, and they did a custom phone, so when you got it, it, like, had your name engraved on it. So mine had my, like, plus Peg Fitzpatrick because on Google Plus, instead of the @ mention, it was a plus in front of it. So it had, like, 2 cut and then the second one was, like, this custom wood phone. Again, it was, like, a really great experience because you don't realize that your phone gets kind of cold, and the wood was, like, warm, and it looked really cool. So, it was, like, such an honor to be able to work on this huge campaign for Google/Motorola, and we made Moto X trend all over the place, on Twitter, on Google+. Everybody was talking about it. It was just such a great, like, experience of taking all the things that I knew and then creating new things, and then trying every feature that the phone had. It was a really new fun there was so much buzz about the phone. It was like a really cool, fun phone. But it had a lot of great camera features that iOS didn't have yet, and it had, like, little, like, GIF makers. It had all these really cool features. So it was I love photography. So it was just, like, as a marketer, it was like a dream event. I got to travel, like, literally to places I never would have been in my life, and it was all paid travel, and I saw beautiful things, and I met amazing people. So, if there's anything you can aspire to do as a marketer, it's work in an event like something that's like a cool launch and go somewhere and just it's so great to experience something. It's kind of like going to a conference or event where it's like the networking piece of it, but it was even like beyond that.
That's amazing. So you are basically one of the OG influencers, right? I mean, this
Totally.
is This is great, and you helped them sell a lot of phones, I'm sure, right?
Yeah,
With these events around
I
the
don't
world.
know a number, but definitely because people we were doing it in South America, but everybody was following it in the United States too, so it was really fun.
And why did Google Plus fail again? Refresh my memory.
I don't know. Why did they fail? I think one of the main reasons is they didn't really have their privacy stuff set. And when things started changing, they were like, I think we'll just sunset this and get rid of all the issues because it was tied to all of your Google properties. So your email, YouTube, all of it. Um, I don't think it took off maybe as well. I don't know. I mean, there was people I was obsessed with it. Guy was obviously obsessed with it. And there was a lot of people who used it all the time. YouTubers, bumped over there. And it was really great conversation. And there's still, in my opinion, is nothing has replaced it as far as like being able to connect with people in like a group to have conversations. Cause I'm not a Facebook group fan. I know they're kind of popular still or again, but I just feel like that's not like a place where like techie cool people go. It's more of a different, I don't know. I don't want to say mom bloggers because mom bloggers are freaking amazing, but it just seems to be a different demographic in the Facebook groups. It's not like a group of people who like a thing. Like Google Plus, you could go and talk to all the people around a certain topic, not just by the hashtag, but in the community groups that they set up. And LinkedIn groups really haven't done the same thing for me either. Like, are you in any LinkedIn groups?
I mean, I'm in a bunch of them, and I've been in a bunch of them for 10 years, but I
But
think
are you
LinkedIn.
active in them? Like, do you go check
No,
stuff?
absolutely not. I think LinkedIn failed on the groups front. Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
And
Let's be clear.
nothing has really picked that ball up. I mean, Twitter back in the day used to have the buzz of like you could talk to people on hashtags and have conversations, but group conversations were always harder. And I feel like, I don't know, it's the people who loved Google Plus still miss it and talk about it, which is me. And some friends that I made only on Google Plus, like I made a whole different group of friends like there that are all like techie people that love, they're always following all the trends and new things. And so I'm grateful that it was there and I got to meet a bunch of people and do a lot of great things. So I'm not really sure if it was just they didn't get the numbers, they didn't really have the capacity. They were like, this isn't a moneymaker for us because they had no ads there. They had no income that they were making on it. So maybe it just wasn't a moneymaker, but I loved it. Like, I think 2 or 3 times I traveled to California and actually met with the Google Plus team and did lives with them there and stuff. It was great. It was a great group of people that now are doing different things at Google, but I wish it hadn't failed. I like Threads now. Do you like Threads?
I'm on Threads. I mostly post like jokes on Threads. I think the reason that Google Plus failed was because when you're making $200 billion a year in advertising like they are in Google pay per click, and then you compare that to
Nothing?
nothing from Google Plus. So like, why are we spending any time on this? And
I
so
know.
it wasn't that they created something bad. I think they just, when they compared those sorts of things, like when they build new products. So like, if it doesn't get to $1 billion, like immediately we're done.
We're
Bye.
out. I
Which is,
know.
which is a very weird litmus test, but I'm curious
But
what you think
not
about,
make the money. It's true.
yeah. I'm curious what you think, like Facebook groups are something that some people point to. And I do see some Facebook groups that have like tens of thousands of people in them, but I personally am not super impressed. Like, I think it's an interesting debate. Some people are like, they're worthwhile. I don't know. What do you think?
I've had a couple and I don't even do them anymore. I think one aspect of them that I don't like, and it is kind of the same as running Google communities, because I used to run the Circle communities too. It's a lot of entertaining people and it takes a lot of time. You got to monitor things all the time. Otherwise, people start spamming it and it's a bad community for everyone. I had a group a long time ago that was very active for 12 Most, that was a collaborative blog. I don't know. Do you ever hear of 12 Most?
I have not. I haven't
It's
heard
a
of
long
that one.
time ago. It was a long time ago. It was like it's been gone for a long time, but there are people who are big fans. So it was a collaborative blog and it was a community of writers that would write on different topics. So I used Facebook groups and it was kind of where we would have conversations and share stuff and things like that. That was a successful group because it was like based around a certain thing. But yeah, I just don't, I feel like Facebook groups, I don't like being on Facebook. So I think other people feel the same way. Like, it's just not it doesn't give you any joy. You're just like, oh, Facebook.
This is one of my questions for you is being a social media expert today, where we're at today, what do you think is the best of social media and the worst of social media today?
Ooh, Twitter is by far the worst now. I still refuse to call it X. I know its name is X, but that place is a dumpster fire and it used to be great. And also, the person who owns it just went to a political rally for a candidate. And I feel like that's wrong. I feel like if you're kind of like owning a media, I don't know. I feel like that's a really gray area that's not okay to me. Too
Yeah.
much. So I feel like that's the worst. I feel like do you agree with that being the worst?
I think the X branding was awful. And I think,
Yeah.
Elon coming out and telling advertisers to go F themselves. Like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, it
He
doesn't,
doesn't either. He's a loose cannon. He uses it for his personal megaphone, and it was a lot of money to pay for that. So, and for the best, I will say, gosh, it's hard for me to say. My true love has always been Pinterest. I love Pinterest. It still does not get the love that it deserves. So, Pinterest for like linking to places, because everything that you create there can lead somewhere. So, even the short form videos that you create for Reels and Shorts and other places, you can put them on Pinterest and that video can link somewhere, which it does not any other platform. TikTok, like any place, maybe LinkedIn. If you share a Liddy, yeah, you can put a link for there, but nothing else is going to link out from just directly from that video. But I think Threads is the best place for communication right now, in my opinion. So if you're looking to network and it's a place where you can still like have posts that will reach people who aren't following you, which is part of the glamour of TikTok is things, kind of go viral over there. So it's all these people who aren't following you seeing your things. And it does happen on Threads where they just kind of, move. But we can only wait for Threads is going to change the way that Instagram and Meta did. And, Meta changes things on Facebook and Instagram, and they will with Threads. The algorithm will shut down, and then everybody who follows you won't see your stuff anymore. So enjoy it now, kids.
yeah. I mean, the thing that's really interesting about Threads is they did this jujitsu move at Meta, which is they said, just copy your Instagram profile and you can be set up on Threads in one click. And that was
Yep.
pretty genius. That's how they got 100 million people using it. And that was, I think, about a year ago. I don't recall the exact date,
It
but
was in
about a year
July.
ago.
It was in July.
Yeah, so a little bit over a year ago, and I've been watching over the last year is, are people actually using it? And I feel like it's been picking up steam. I think a
Yep.
lot of the 100 million people who created accounts initially didn't really post a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
the
It
uh,
seems to be
it was pretty quiet for a year, and then it picked up again. People again got disgusted with Twitter and were like, "Is it okay?" It's like almost everybody new that comes over says, "I'm here from Twitter. What's going on over here?" And then sometimes people stick around and sometimes they don't. So I do see a lot of celebrities and influencers.
well, I guess, have you had some clients that have had some success on Threads?
No,
No, not yet.
not quite, but just me. And when I worked for a guy, he did his own threads. So I started out his threads. He was one of the people that got the little seed. Here's the little secret that a lot of people don't know. When a new platform opens up, influencers and celebrities get access to it first. They get help from behind the scenes and they always gain a lot of followers. So it's always harder for everybody else. But this one did not snowball like other things. Guy's been consistently posting since the beginning, since the very first second that it was open, because I got the email and I signed his account up and he's like in the thousands of like number of people who did it. So his profile number is really low. He's been consistent. And it's not like he got 100,000 or a million followers there. He's still, in the tens of thousands. So they didn't give them like a huge boost, but no matter what it is, whether it's LinkedIn, when they added their influencer program, all the influencers got huge followings and it happens everywhere. So don't get discouraged if you start somewhere new and all of a sudden it seems like there's this group of people who are so popular. It's because they were handpicked by whatever platform it is. And, you know, it's like a thing that people don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to watch it evolve. What
Mm.
is your opinion on LinkedIn, their current, how they're doing these days?
I think LinkedIn keeps trying, and I appreciate that. I do think it is a place where you can get a lot of engagement as a small business owner or, a podcaster or whomever. You don't have to post as often on LinkedIn. If you post like one good thing a week and keep your profile up to date, you're good there. That's one thing I like about Pinterest and LinkedIn. Right now, their best practices are saying just post like one piece of original content once a week, which is a lot less than other places. So I like the low barrier of entry point. Just make sure your profile is set up really well and use a couple hashtags. I do think LinkedIn is a place you can grow and do well. I do see people doing really well with carousel posts on LinkedIn. So you can create a carousel post, you save it as a PDF and you upload it as a document into LinkedIn and then it previews as a carousel where you go through the posts. Those are pretty popular there right now.
So you have two books on social media. Talk about both of those books briefly.
So, The Art of Social Media is the book that I co authored with Guy Kawasaki. We wrote that in 2014, and we do talk about Google Plus in there because it was very relevant at the time. So, that book is older now, and that book is power tips for power users. That one is not the strategy from beginning to end. That one is more like, this is how you do this. And there are parts of it that are still really relevant. It's a really cute small book. It's the one right behind me. My new book is The Art of Small Business Social Media, a blueprint for marketing success. And that book picks up for new people where my other book left off. So after we shared our other book, I talked to so many people who was like, these are helpful tips, but I really need like everything from beginning to end. Like, how do I start a brand? What's visual marketing? Like, how do I create a brand voice? All of those things that the pieces to build your brand. And then the middle part of the book, it's in 3 sections. The middle part is how to create all your content. What is a content calendar? How do I use it? And it talks about all the different platforms. And then the third one is like the practical application of using your brand and the content creation to really like dig deep and reach your goals in marketing. So this one, it took me like 3 years to write this book. In The Art of Social Media, I wrote that one so fast. And then Guy and I worked on it together and it was published. I was writing it in like July. Guy and I were writing on it at the end of July. They bought it and it was in stores at the beginning of December, which is literally unheard of in publishing. They fast tracked it. It was like bam, bam, bam. It was so fast. We had already like pre-edited it. It had already been edited by an editor. So it was already, good to go. And I did the same thing with this book. I wrote the whole thing. I actually had gone through it longer. I tried to make it very evergreen. So things did not, obviously there'll be things in there that change, but it's basically the blueprint. Like I said, it's the blueprint for marketing, not necessarily based on trends or, things that are going to come and go, but really like the things that stick around in all the time that I've been in social media, what are the important things that you need to know? And those are not the trendy, how to find a trending video thing, even though those can help you get better views and more people seeing it. That's not like the main thing. The main thing is like reaching your goals and creating your goals to help your business be successful.
And so, what are a few of the golden nuggets in the blueprint that are your favorites since you worked on this book for years? You got
Yeah.
to have one or two
It
favorite
sounds
nuggets.
ridiculous to have worked on something for years. I think one thing that is more relevant today than ever is that the follower count does not matter as much anymore. It's really more about engaging people and creating that community and having conversations because people are just seeing so much information that you really need to be somebody that people are like, "Oh, you know what? I really like that podcast. I should save this. I should make sure that I'm following the show so it hits my podcast player when there's new episodes. So that being consistent and building that community, I think are more important than ever. And also repurposing your content, which is something that I've talked about for a very long time. But I think now more than ever, again, this is more important because there's so many better ways to like chop your content up. Even like you use Descript for your podcast. There's so many ways just in Descript. You can record this podcast. We're live right now, but then you can just do a million things with it afterwards, right into Script. Create little clips, find the best little quotes. Like there's so many different things that you can do. You could take one podcast and turn it into like 20 different things very easily and reach people on all different platforms. And there was different ways of doing that before, but not as easy as it is now. With Canva being the powerhouse that it is now, with templates in there that you can create for yourself, or go to Creative Market and buy some custom templates and put your brand overlay on everything. So I think today it's easier to create really sharp, repurposed content. So I think those are some things that people should not discount.
Yeah, I think those are great tips. I think that social media always is evolving. If we were sitting down for a coffee, just you, me, and the 10,000 people listening, what is the number one thing you would tell them to be successful on social media?
That's a good question. I will say go with a really basic. Number one, have a really good avatar and a great profile, because those are two basic things that people still miss. And those are always evolving and changing. So you shouldn't have a avatar that you've had since you started. I think that was a thing that sometimes people just get one and they like it and they leave it, but you should change like at least every 4 or 5 years, because you change over 4 or 5 years. And you want to make sure that everything that you create online is really who you are. So when you meet people in person, they say, "Oh my God, you're exactly like you are on that podcast I heard you on," or your posts are, you speak exactly like you speak in person. You just want to make sure that you're not, and automation is it's a thing now. We haven't talked about AI at all, but AI is alive and alive in our social media world, but you can't lose those aspects that really make you you, and you being authentic and unique and the thing that people connect with.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I like the advice you shared earlier too, which is it's not about keeping score of quantity of followers. It's more
Yeah.
about the quality, right? I think that's a
Yep.
big dynamic that I've seen, today. It doesn't matter if you have 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. It's about how engaged they are. Are they people
Absolutely.
who really, are interested in engaging in the conversation? And so I think that this is great advice. Any final thoughts? Anything I didn't ask about social media you wanted to share today?
Just stick with it. If you're a small business and you're trying to do something on social media, just know that it takes time to build a community. It takes time once you build a community to keep nurturing your community, but it can work. And don't forget to set up your email list along with your social media so you can reach people directly. We didn't even dive into that either, but you want to make sure that you're not building all of your network on borrowed land. Make sure that you have things like a good website and an email list where you can connect with people directly, and you're not, you know, burdened down with an algorithm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that keeping at it and being consistent
Yeah.
is one of those really critical points because a lot of people approach it as, why can't I have overnight success?
Right.
And when I look at a lot of the most successful influencers and content creators, most of them have been at it for years, just like you and Guy, right? It's not
Yeah.
like posted something and you were an overnight sensation. I mean, that almost
No.
never happens.
I don't think it does happen. I mean, sometimes at this point, people go viral and then it becomes popular, but that doesn't even happen all the time right away. So nobody can predict what is going to be popular today, tomorrow, or in 5 years on the internet. So just create what you think is helpful and useful and entertaining for people. And you never know. It might not be that popular today, but it might pick up later.
Absolutely. And you mentioned one of your favorite things was Pinterest, and you have a resource that
Oh
you
yeah.
wanted to share. Can you describe what that is? And I'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I created this Pinterest 5x5 power up program because a lot of people have kind of let their Pinterest slide, or maybe they didn't really get started. So I created a really easy way to create multiple pins for an image. So say, for example, it's for your podcast. So it's for Remarkable Marketing. And just you can create multiple pins, you create different titles, different descriptions, you can remix them and create a plan where you have pins going out over time. So, like I said before, you create one thing and you share it multiple times. This is a great way to batch process something and then have things go out over time. There could be something that we talk about in this show, like just say it's Pinterest. Like people are like all of a sudden, like, oh man, I need to get back on my Pinterest. Maybe this podcast will all of a sudden be more popular in a couple months, or if it gets, I don't know, like something big happens, something could come up on an older show that all of a sudden would be popular, or maybe is seasonally popular if you're talking about Black Friday. So say you're talking about Black Friday marketing, then it could be popular this year, but then when that rolls around next year, that can be popular on Pinterest again. Seasonal things trend all the time, events and like holiday seasons and different things that come up. And so you can't really tell what's going to be popular, like I said, now or later, but you can plan to have a lot of content out there and reach people in a lot of different ways, because you can share one post or one pin or one podcast, but that doesn't mean that people are going to see it the first time you share it. So this Pinterest Power Up Plan is really going to help you just research your Pinterest, get a lot of really great content out there, and help more people find you.
I think it's really interesting because, in particular for small businesses, they often have these unique products that are not something you could just go buy as a commodity on Amazon,
Right.
that have a unique look to them. So I think leaning into the Pinterest thing is kind of interesting for a lot
Hmm.
of the small businesses. You have sort of unique or boutique or niche products. I think it's a very interesting strategy to pursue for those businesses. So encourage everyone to check that out. And Peg, really appreciate you being with us today. Thank you for your time and all of your insights. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me.